Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Hellenic Eagle here. Today I'm going to be discussing with you four topics that get brought up quite a bit whenever I see debates between Greeks, Slavic Macedonians, and sometimes some Albanians as well. These four topics are at the cornerstone of their arguments and serve as the foundation for their agenda to debunk the Greeks and get these claims together and securing their national identity, as it were. So these four topics, I guess, all relate to each other. So if I start, talking about one thing and relating it to the other, is because they are in common. It's just, again, I just randomly, sporadically see these comments individually, but they can sort of be grouped as one. And so without further ado, we'll get into it. So the four things that get brought up quite a bit: the coins with no Hellas written on them. A lot of the time they'll ask, give a coin from the ancient Greek kingdom with Hellas written on it. Or if these people were ancient Greeks, then give me a coin with Hellas written on it. So that's one of their topics, or one of their arguments that they're so invested in. The next being the states being separate and not united as a kingdom under Greece, for example. So, there was no Greek kingdom, or no kingdom that expanded out, called Greece, rather. The next one is there not being any Greek identity until 1821. Apparently, there was no Greek identity from ancient times, medieval times, such and such. It only occurred until 1821. And another one being Greece not having Macedonia until 1913. So somehow Greece not incorporating Macedonia into its borders after its independence in 1821, or rather, its start to independence in 1821, somehow it gives illegitimacy to the claim of Macedonia, because after 1913 it was part of Greece. Before that it wasn't, and so on and so forth. So we'll start with, I guess, the coins with no Hellas written on them. Back then, obviously, this goes into the second part where it talks about states being separated. There was no kingdom called Greece. If there was a united Greek collective, it was under, Philip II of Macedonia, and also under the Roman Empire, so on and so forth. But that doesn't stop the fact that the Macedonians were part of the greater Hellenic stock, and that these people from the Greek city-states and the Greek leagues and islands and all that sort of stuff, that they all saw themselves as one people. And to just further emphasize that, I have a quote from a website that was created by Peter Brinton, who is a historian who's been in the field for 30 odd years, and he sort of specializes in getting historical facts onto like electronic platforms, such as his website, which his website is called timesmap.com. This is a fantastic website for you guys to check out. This site was also pioneered by Alexander Kent, who is a renowned cartographer, and also his son Johnny, who helps with the social media aspects and all that. So what the site says, and I'm just quoting directly from this, under the title or subtitle of Society in Ancient Greece. The ancient Greeks certainly thought of themselves as one people. They had the same religion, language, and culture. Every 4 years, all Greek city-states sent their young men and women to compete in the Olympic Games. Politically, however, ancient Greece was divided among several hundred independent city-states or polises. These city-states fiercely defended their independence from one another. Political union was not an option unless imposed from outside, which first occurred when Philip II, King of Macedonia, conquered the city-states of Greece in the mid-4th century BC. So right off the bat there, guys, we've just debunked three out of the four things that we've talked about, where there was a Greek identity in ancient times, that the people they had a conscious awareness that they were one people, and that they called themselves Greeks and Hellenics and Hellenes and all that sort of stuff, and that, put simply, there was no need for those coins, with Hellas written on them, because, again, the functionality of these coins was not needed, because the city-states, right, that administered their currencies and whatnot. Obviously, they had to write what, their currency, where their currency was from. So for Athens, for example, you find a lot of coins with the initials of Athens on there with the L. Why would they write Greece on there? This coin is coming from Athens, and again, Greece as a kingdom or as a unified republic did not exist back then. So I don't understand how that somehow diminishes or debunks the fact that there was no Greek people again, or no Greek ethos. It is very strange. Again, these coins come from Athens, or they come from Sparta, or they come from Rhodes, or this, that, and vice versa. There was no functional need to put these coins in there. It's like, it's like the people from Britain, right? The colonialists that went to America and Australia, they know they are from England or Ireland or Scotland or Wales or wherever. They know what they are, but when they go to these colonies and they name it Australian, whatever, their nationality becomes Australian, or they lead their allegiance to their nationality, but they haven't forgotten their ethnicity. And this is the problem and the crux of the argument, that these people from primarily, from North Macedonia and some Albanians, they don't seem to quite understand the notion of a nationality versus an ethnicity. They get these two confused, and again, it makes sense, because when you come from a post-communist country, that's a small part in the world, and from a small area in the Balkans, of course you're radical, because both these countries did have extreme radicalism in terms of their national agenda and national identity. And they did, and still, to an extent, not so much on the political spec, but it's more so hidden within their diaspora and some of the ones at home, about expansionism, claiming territories of other people to spread their hold and their sort of influence in other countries. So that's what happens when you come from these countries that have been so tarnished and destroyed by communism. And for these people here, they still harp on that, because they think for some reason that countries that, like that exist in the West, like Australia or whatever, are somehow influenced by, or sort of corrupted, because they had to question their governments back then. And their governments did this, that, and the rest, so they have to do the same with this. And the education system was different over there, so they have to question it here. And that's just the toxic mindset that they're set in. So when dealing with this, I'd advise to just take a step back and just relax. Even though they may be born in the same country as you, like Australia, for example, the roots are deep in their corruption for that. So back to the relevant topics now. So as we can see, but Athen, the site says Philip, King of Macedonia. It says from an outside source. Well, if we just click onto, again, timemaps.com, and we look into Macedon, it says here, Macedon was a kingdom to the north of Greece. Indeed, Macedonians themselves claimed to be Greeks, but Athenians and others regarded them as at least semi-barbaric. Perhaps due to its location far from the main currents of Greek life, she had retained more primitive political institutions than her southern neighbors. She was still ruled by powerful kings, served by an old style land nobility. So, right there, guys, straight off the bat, we can see that the Macedonians saw themselves as Greeks. It's just some of the others, like Athens, that didn't, right? And the reason Athens didn't is because Athens was scared of the influence that Macedonia was going to have on the other city-states or little areas and such. That was the reason why they hated them, along with the fact that, as pointed out here, that they lived an old-style landed nobility. This just didn't sit well with the Athenians. And the Athenians cited the Spartans as being the same thing, because the Spartans had two kings, one for home and one for war. Like, anyone who didn't follow the Athenian structure of their view of society was seen as barbaric. So it's not the fact that the Macedonians saw themselves as anything different from the greater Hellenic stock. It's just Athens and co. So, and so, again, some. But that's again, this will be dubbed as propaganda, which again I do ask for, please prove how this is propaganda, blah blah blah, but I never get the direct answer or the direct response to that question. So moving on from that, so we've already proven that the coins with Hellas, that there was no need for them, that the states being separated as a different thing somehow debunks the fact that there was ancient Greeks back then, was also debunked, and that there was no Greek identity until 1821, which is completely false. Again, another reference to that is the fact that the Western Romans made fun of East Rome for being a Greek kingdom, and the fact that the Bible was translated into Greek to be distributed to its masses, because at the time the majority of the people spoke Greek, and this is again thanks to Alexander's conquest, where he spread Koine, which is the common tongue, so that way people can understand each other and speak at least one language. Again, it is well documented that Eastern Rome was predominantly dominated by Greek-speaking people. Again, not necessarily Greeks in the Levant and in Anatolian and whatnot. There was certainly a certain decent amount of them, but that Greek was the language for a reason, because Alexander spread it, and it was just easier to translate the Bible in Greek at the time, or in Koine, which again they will cite is not actually the language. It's not that Koine is somehow not a Greek language, which I don't know. I'm not even going to bother with that. As for Greece not having Macedonia incorporated into its area until 1913, this and then them instituting a lot of schools, and that somehow this was just a quick panic attack by the Greek government, that they had to put all these schools in because they didn't exist back in the day. Again, this is a topic that can be very easily debunked if you actually use a little bit of logic, which these people don't, because they're not actually out for that. They genuinely want to just cause a fuss. The fact and the reason why Greece didn't have Macedonia until 1913 is because Greece was up against the Ottomans, guys. One of the greatest empires to have ever existed. It was a massive unequal sort of thing, like, it's David versus Goliath, literally, in this sense. The fact that Greece got its independence with the help of some certain powers was, on itself, a struggle. And after 1821, Greece still struggled for its independence. Lands came and went. There was, again, that part of history was very, very troubling. Greece did not simply have, or simply rather, did not have the firepower to go all the way. If it could, in that time, of course it would have gone to all of its areas. It would have gone to all of its islands. It would have gone to Macedonia and Thrace and Cyprus and all that. Of course it would have done it, but it simply did not have the military capabilities to do so. So I don't understand how this is somehow undermines Greece's claim onto Macedonia. And the fact that they put those schools and institutes there at the time, it was under Ottoman rule. So, of course, they put their institutions in there. Of course, they had to do that. And, of course, there wasn't Greek schools, because it doesn't serve the function of the Ottoman Empire to have Greek schools and institutions there. They would want their schools. They would want their agenda put onto the peoples over there, because at the time, people weren't allowed to identify with a nationality other than their religious identity. So, for example, you had to be labeled as a Christian, and you weren't a Greek or a Serbian or a Bulgarian. You had to be labeled as a Jew, and then you were a Muslim. You had not Lebanese, not Saudi Arabian, or rather Arabian, not Egyptian, so on and so forth. But these people that existed in empire knew who and what they were. They just could not label themselves after their ethnicity or their ethnic identity. And so the people that lived in Macedonia at the time was a large mix of people. There was Greeks, there was Bulgarians, there was Vlachs, there was Turks, there was Jews, and there was Albanians as well. They were part of the collective of the geographical area of Macedonia. The term for Macedonian ethnicity did not exist back then, even amongst the Greeks, because they knew that they were Greek. The Bulgarians didn't call themselves Macedonians. The Turks, they didn't call themselves Macedonians, because Macedonia is a geographical area. Again, you go to Athens and you don't sorry, they don't say that they're Athenian in that sense. Like, yes, they're Greek, right? What nationality are you, or what ethnicity are you? I'm Greek, right? They're not going to say they're Athenian, but they're going to say they're from Athens because that's a geographic indication of where they're from. Again, for me, right? I'm not going to say, even if I was, I guess, white or an indigenous one, like an Aboriginal, I wouldn't say that my ethnicity is South Australian. I would say my ethnicity is Australian, and that I'm from the geographical area of South Australia. So I don't understand this notion of there being a Macedonian ethnicity when there isn't. It's just a geographical term. The ethnicity for this people is Slavic. And again, you can be a Slavic Macedonian. I'm not opposed to that because they did exist there. More accurately, a Bulgarian Macedonian, but they refuse to be called that. And you can be a Greek Macedonian, and you can be an Albanian Macedonian. And it's not. And again, some people may not like this, guys, and I understand that some Greeks may not like this as well, as you feel it infringes on that. But you have to think of it as it is a geographical area, and that the historical claims are still, for the ancient perspective, are still, adherent to the Greeks, right? That these ancient Macedonians were Greek. That is what their ethnicity was. They just had their separate geographical distinctions between city-states and kingdoms and whatnot. That's just the reality of it. So, yeah, sorry, I sort of diverted from the 1913 thing a bit, but yeah, that is the reason, guys. Again, Greece did not have the military capabilities to do so, and so it entered a Balkan League with Bulgaria and Serbia and Montenegro, and they kicked the Turks out. And then the Second Balkan War happened because Bulgaria felt robbed, and they wanted to take back Macedonia, because there was a secret signing done by Serbia and Greece, a secret defense pact rather, in case Bulgaria revolted. Because back then, guys, Bulgaria was very powerful at the time. It was called the mini Russia of the Balkans. I think that was the terminology of it. So, and again, the rush to put the Greek institutions in there is because there was a void. Like, you've taken these people out of the Ottoman Empire, and now you rule these people, and they're part of your country, so you need to put your institutions on there. This is a standard practice, and I don't understand how this sort of undermines the Greek narrative on that. So again, guys, yeah, I'll stop from there. I think I've made my point pretty clear on the matter. Thank you for everyone for watching. If you felt I've missed some parts, or you have anything extra to add, please add that to the comments. Give me a like. Let me know if it was good, or give me a dislike and tell me why it was bad. I would love to hear the feedback. Again, regardless of like or dislike, give me some feedback, and yeah, let's continue to explore this sort of topic. So I'll leave you guys to it. This is Hellenic Eagle signing out. Have a good one.